Accidentally burned down my neighbor's fence and she tries to milk me for $10,000. Judge humbles that butt up real quick. Posted by T-Bird Kamikaze. So it's been about 4 years since this happened. I was about 18 at the time, working for a security company. There were constant call-offs and no-shows. I have no idea why. But being so young and naive, I was constantly working 16-hour shifts and not coming home until 8 a.m. Also, I lived with my father at the time. The time frame of this was around the 4th of July. I finally had a day off and my best friend was back in town for vacation. We decided to get together and chip in on some good old American fireworks. To be fair, I have had nothing but bad experiences with fireworks, so I had no idea how this would be any different. We got home with the fireworks and we laid them all out on the floor. Sparklers, bottle rockets, cakes, and Roman candles. I say, why don't we mess around with some sparklers since it's still not dark yet? Great idea. We go into my backyard where it hasn't rained in well over 2 months and is extremely dry. You see the problem here? One of the little sparkies from mine and my friend's sparkler made contact with the ground and it made 2 small fires that quickly spread to a large area. I ran as fast as I could to grab the garden hose and quickly started spraying down the fire. It was of no use. It was spreading faster than I could spray it. I handed my friend the hose and called 911. What felt like hours was only 4 minutes and the fire was spreading to the neighbor's fence. The neighbor came outside and they were fairly calm to grab their hose and spray down the fence along with the dead grass in her yard. The fire department shows up finally and I tell my friend, only one of us needs to get in trouble. You should leave. He was reluctant to leave because he felt equally responsible, but I convinced him that I didn't want him to get in trouble and have to drop out of college. My neighbor was super chill about the entire situation at first. I told her that we could talk about replacing the fence and get some quotes to repair it. She was just super grateful that everyone was okay. About 2 hours after the fire, the arson and fire investigator came to question me about the fire. I told him the truth. I said I was in the backyard by myself playing with fireworks and accidentally lit the ground on fire. I had gotten off that day without being hit by any charges and was commended for being honest. Here is where it goes downhill very fast. About a week later, I get a knock on the door from the neighbor. I opened the door and she handed me 2 pieces of paper for me to look at. There was a quote for the fence valued at around $4,000 and an estimate for lawn care valued around $6,000. These were really shady and just typed out on a Microsoft Word document with no logo or company name. She then adds, I will also be having you pay my water bill for 3 months because the new yard will need lots of water. Now, the fence that this woman had before was raggedy and fallen apart. Her yard? Dead grass, weeds everywhere, never even mowed it. Now, looking at this paper, she wants a mahogany fence, a brand new backyard with flowers and trimmed hedges. I said, I need to get an estimate myself. This just doesn't feel right. She says, remember you agreed to replace my fence, and a real man keeps promises. I shut the door and called my dad to tell him about what just happened, and he flipped the heck out and told me, son, don't you give that jerk a single dime. He gives me the number to his handyman and tells me to take care of it. The next day, I had the guy come out for an estimate, and the neighbor ran outside flailing her arms. I did not give you permission to get an estimate on my fence. Technically, it separates the property line, so it's both of our fences. She calls the cops on me for having a contractor, and they ultimately can't do a single thing because I'm on my property. He quickly finishes an estimate off at about $1,200. I also knew a guy who did lawn care from my time working at the grocery store. He estimated the lawn reseeding while she was away from the house to be about $800. After I get these estimates, I give copies to the woman, and she's having none of it. I don't know these people, I don't want them near my house, and they're probably some really crappy contractors. I said, no, I know them personally, and they're really nice people, and they do great work. She shut the door in my face, and I went on my way. I ended up working a 16-hour shift that night, and I got home at 8 a.m., and this woman comes knocking on my door at 9 a.m. and demanded I speak to her. I explained, hey look, I would really love to do this, but I just got home and I have to be back at work in less than 5 hours. I need to sleep. She goes, what kind of crazy lazy butt sleeps in until 2 p.m.? At this point, I had about lost it and told her, you can either accept my $2,000 for my quotes or kiss my butt and get nothing. She stood there for a while with her mouth gaped open, but she accepted my offer and planned to meet down at the notary the next morning. I spent that night after I got off work writing a contract and gathering the $2,000 in cash. The next morning, I wake up and grab this contract to meet down at the notary. I was thrilled to finally be done with this broad and never speak to her again. I waited for her for over 3 hours and she didn't show up. I get a call from her saying, I'm sorry, the $2,000 isn't enough. I'm having my guys start work on this project and you will be paying me full price. Oh, really? After that, I did not say a single word to her and I watched for a few months as these guys turned her backyard into an oasis, complete with a small pond, brand new sod and flowers, the whole 9 yards. Come to find out, she had plans to remodel these things for a long time and was just waiting for the opportunity to go through with it. Also in this time, she used her remodel funds to go on a trip to Hawaii. You know how I found out about this? She was bragging about it on the neighborhood Facebook group and didn't know I was in it. I have a different Facebook name than my real name. Are you ready for the revenge? Now, 4 months after the fire and all of the remodels, I get served papers to go to court for $10,300. At 18 years old, I'm having to hire a lawyer to work my case. When we finally do get into court, I lay everything out. The quotes, being harassed multiple times, not showing up after agreeing to a deal, not wanting me to get my own quotes, required by law by the way, and her bragging about screwing me out of money, and I have proof of all of this. The judge looked at her and said, ma'am, with all due respect, you're out of your daggone mind. Not only did this young man tell you the truth of what happened, he offered to pay you more than what he was supposed to. Your lawn was already dead before the fire occurred, therefore he is only responsible for the fence of $1,200. I will also deduct from this his lawyer fees of $800. So I'm thinking, so I burned this woman's fence down and all I'm having to give her is $400? Cool. She took a huge financial loss from this. Not sure how much the Hawaii trip cost her, but she was in serious debt. She ended up having to sell the house because of it and moved into a smaller house. Haven't heard anything from her since. Now I do need to clear a few things up. I am not saying that I don't feel bad for burning down my neighbor's fence. I felt really bad about it and wish we could have handled it more civilly. I would have been happy to meet in the middle or get multiple quotes. To this day, I still do not use fireworks because we could have really hurt someone. What I have learned through this though is that it's best to take responsibility from your actions from the gate. The fire investigator had seen the leftover fireworks near the area of the fire and said he would have slapped cuffs on me and I would be in jail for arson if I would have given him any other answer. I was not criminally charged and the incident was deemed an accidental fire. Thank you for the people in the comments for giving me information about how much a fence actually cost. I've never had to purchase a fence before, so I just believed what the contractor had told me without second thought. I mean, this Karen is entitled to what? No, this is fraud through and through, and just knowing that she had this plan from the get-go, waiting for that right moment to strike her Karen fangs and claws, to just get on this 18-year-old guy, take advantage of him because he probably doesn't know any better, right? Well, she assumed she had it in the bag, you know what they say about assuming, right? And then has the full remodel done, turns his down, waits for it, and then boom, judge drops the hammer on her from the get-go. But you know what? She thinks she won, going to Hawaii on a trip while doing this remodel, thinking that she's all high and mighty. Well, guess what? The Facebook group tells no lies, bragging about your achievements, quote unquote, like this, and then OP finding out because he was in the group and she didn't even know it is the icing on this delicious cake. OP, way to go. What do you think? Karen was annoyed that I didn't evenly divide 7 by 2, posted by Meth Hardy. I used to work for a company where we went into schools in our area to perform a free 1-hour wacky science show teaching kids the importance of saving water. Our local area relies on aquifers, which are underground porous rock that stores rainfall. for the majority of our water, so it's important to teach kids both about how the water cycle works where we live and about not wasting water. This incident occurred 5 years ago and it just came on my Facebook memories, and it very much fits this sub. Myself and my colleague were at a school in a very affluent area performing our water show, teaching the kids in our own unimitatable, irreverent way. The school had invited parents into the assembly, so we had about 30 or so parents seated at the back of the hall along with the 200 or so kids. After the show, which went down an absolute treat, my colleague had gone to collect the car, which we couldn't park near the school, while I had remained behind to tidy up and move all of our kit to the front entrance to the school where he would be pulling up. Suddenly, a parent came up to speak to me. Karen says, "Hello, do you mind if I have a quick word?" I reply, "Yeah, of course not." "Well, let me start off by telling you how fantastic that show was." I'm waiting for the but I say, "Hey, thank you very much." But, my internal monologue says, "There it is. I was wondering if you noticed that you had picked more boys than girls as your volunteers, rather than an equal number of each." Okay, you're asking me if I realized that I didn't pick an equal number of boys and girls as my volunteers? Yes. Yes, I was aware of this, mainly because we need an odd number of volunteers in the show. It's very difficult to keep the numbers of each equal when the total number is odd. Karen looks at me while trying to think. "Did you notice that while we picked 4 boys and 2 girls for the aquifer experiment, we picked a girl as the solo volunteer for the toothbrushing experiment? And the toothbrushing volunteer does a lot more than the aquifer volunteers do. So, yesterday when we did this exact same show in a different school, we had 4 girls and 2 boys for the aquifer experiment and then a boy for the toothbrush. We always try to keep things as fair as possible. I'm just saying because my daughters were here today and I want them to enjoy science." Well, hopefully they did. "I also noticed that on your banner," and she indicates the pop-up banner off to one side, "that you have 2 boys and 1 girl on that. That's hardly equal." "Yeah, that is true, but with the size of the banner, 3 children was the right number. 2 would have left too much empty space, while 4 would have been too crowded." "Then why didn't they pick 2 girls?" "Well, because we made several mock-ups of the banner and showed them to different children, and the most popular design was that one." "Well, I don't think..." I interrupt and say, "You may be pleased to see that the fun pack that each child gets to take home has only 1 boy and 1 girl on the cover." I pick up the pack and I show her. "That's nice." Karen walks off and a teacher comes over to me. The teacher says, "Hey, what was all that about?" "Apparently, I need to find a way to pick an equal number of boys and girls despite the total number adding up to an odd total." "Okay, so because you didn't pick either of her 2 daughters as any of your handful of volunteers out of 200 children in the school?" "It would seem that way, teacher." "What did you say to her?" "Basically that 7 isn't divisible by 2, but across multiple schools we make sure to keep things equal." "And what did she say?" "That's nice. I mean, 7 divided by 2, if this Karen had even gone to any kind of school would see that you can't make that equal. You can't have half a kid and do this. I don't know how she doesn't get this. You know what? What if she actually does get this and she just wanted her kids picked? That entitlement of her kids, not anybody else's, because hers are better. She has to have her way as a Karen. I think this Karen's crazy. I wonder if she actually knew the math was the issue here, or if it was just a facade, an excuse for her to try to get her way with her kids. What do you think? Way to go, OP, for standing your ground." This is an insane entitlement Karen story. Now, I am no lawyer, but just checking this story out is insane. It's called "My Mother Has Forged My Signature on Checks and Stolen $60,000, posted by Angel in Blue Jeans. I kind of don't know where to begin. Right now, I'm trying to figure out what kind of attorney I need. My mother has been forging my signature on checks addressed to me since I was 18. There have been 4 checks in the amount of $15,000 each, totaling to $60 grand. The money I get is from a lawsuit from when I was a minor, but I had no idea about any of it because I was really young when it happened. I have since reported her to the insurance company's fraud department, my local police, I live in Illinois, she lives in California, my bank, as well as USPS, since she has been stealing and opening my mail to get these checks. I decided to send her and my dad an email outlining everything I know with the proof, which is a forged check and the bank statements, and she texted me this morning denying all of it, but in the same breath said that I owed them that money because they raised me. I'm starting to ramble. She has since decided to just ignore me, so I'm going to look into an attorney. It seems like it's insanely expensive just to get a consultation, so I'm wondering which specialty of attorney I should be looking for. Is this a family matter, or does the $60K in fraud and mail theft make it a different specialty? Now, a lot of the story has been left out because I just assumed I'd need to find a lawyer. The injury occurred when I was 4 or 5, and I'm now 23. When the lawsuit happened, my mother was not even legally my mother yet, as I was later adopted by her. The checks started coming when I was 18. I didn't even know about the injury or lawsuit, let alone that I was owed money, so I had no idea that any checks were coming. I just found out about this very, very recently. I know the name of the company paying me out, but I don't even know the name of the establishment where I was hurt as a kid. I filed a police report in my state as the PD where she lives said it's technically out of their jurisdiction. I'm a bit confused because the crime was committed there, but they said that the crime has to be reported based off of where the victim is. I filed a fraud report with the insurance company who has been sending the checks to my mother's address. Everything has been updated to my address and information, and a passcode was put on the account that only I know. They are mailing me paperwork with copies of the forged checks as well as an affidavit I have to sign regarding the fraud. I made a report with my bank, and they were jerks and said there's nothing they can do and were extremely short with me. Finally, I made a report with UPS Investigation Department. While the checks were sent to my mother's address, where I lived as a kid, they still had my legal name on them, not hers. So she opened mail that wasn't addressed to her. Now, while the crime was committed in California and I live in Illinois, I believe the settlement was in Colorado. That's where I lived before I was adopted, and that's where the accident occurred. My aunt was the one who told me about the money and helped me find out who the insurance company was. My aunt, mom's sister, told me that when my now mom and dad adopted me, they had to submit paperwork to prove guardianship with the insurance company. And that's when the company changed the address from my childhood home in Colorado to their home in California. Even though my adopted mom committed the crimes, my adopted dad knew everything that was going on. They both profited off the money, and they did a huge backyard remodel. OP updates with, I'm not being nonchalant, I'm just more in shock. My mom is middle and high and lower high class. I'm quite literally dirt poor and pregnant. I'm adopted, so I know that she's never really viewed me as her own. It just seems unreal to me that she could steal $60K from me and then talk crap about me to my family because I couldn't afford prenatals around my birthday. Now, I know I'm not a lawyer or anything like that, just trying to look at this situation here, but that is cold and heartless entitlement because this Karen thinks that, oh, we raised you, we are owed this $60,000, but that's not the case. You are a parent, you are raising the child because you are turning and raising a child to an adult, not just having a baby for the decoration of it, and even when you adopt someone, you are still their parent because you make that choice to do that. Now, you did not legally get this money. This was from an accident and a settlement, so it's not even yours to begin with. And you're using the excuse of, I just raised you. That's just a load of crap is what I think. OP, I'm sorry this is happening. Let me know what you think in the comments. HOA breaks the law. I take them to court and lawyer up with updates. Click the video on your screen. You don't want to miss the crazy fallout on the updates, and I'll see you there.